seminary students were my heroes. We lived right across the street from the seminary, and I would go over there almost every afternoon after school and go in the dormitory and go from room to room. The students, I'm sure, tolerated me because my dad was their professor and they couldn't exactly throw me out.
One thing that sticks out to me, being fresh in my mind as a student, is that the North Carolina Synod would come to campus a lot. They would provide meals for us during our J-term class, which is a 2-week course in January, and where you meet all day because it's a condensed course. And they would come and provide dinner for us afterwards, which is especially welcomed after a long day of class.
I went up to the seminary for Thursday night worship service, to a chapel worship service at a Thursday night. And one of the hymns that we sang that night, including the lyrics, I was lost but now I'm found, an Amazing Grace hymn. And that's kind of really the way I felt. I was kind of lost in Columbia, South Carolina. And that night in that seminary, I felt like this is home.
A big reason of why I came here was to learn from some of the professors we have here. And so that's huge. You know, who you learn from is what you're going to take with you throughout the rest of your ministry. And so you want to learn from someone who's really good at what they do so that your ministry can be as good as it can be.
I love the energy of learning, of students, of seeing the light bulb go on for students. And that's actually one of the things I love about the seminary. Walking into the classroom, I'm going to walk into a classroom a little bit later on, and by the way, there's going to be 3, 4, 5 students from North Carolina in that classroom. And I just love sitting down with the students, being in a classroom with them, and reading texts, some of them really hard, some of them not as hard, but reading them, struggling to understand them, and seeing the light bulb go off and seeing people go, so that's what that means, and that's why it matters in ministry and in life.
A good friend of mine said, oh, it sounds like you go to seminary and see the world. Because in seminary, I got to travel a little bit. Got to go to Israel with Dr. Luker and his Old Testament class and group. I got to go off on an internship in Vero Beach, Florida. And then other travels around South Carolina and in the churches, but also seeing the world also, I think, involved seeing what life was all about. And so that was a neat experience for me. I really grew up a lot in those years of seminary.
The North Carolina Synod has been a part of our story since high school, through college at Lenore-Rhine, through camp ministry at Camp Agape, through my ministry on Synod Council, and it was good to know that going to seminary didn't mean ending a relationship that had built this call for us in ministry, and North Carolina has the reputation for being the most supportive synod of their candidates.
Financial aid is really kind of what gets us through here, and not just me and Grace. It's, you know, most of the families that I know here have a pretty significant financial aid package, and without it, it would just be really hard to do what we're doing here.
I'm lucky enough to have a job as a youth minister at a congregation that's very supportive of me in this process, but most students aren't. And so they need any kind of help they can get as future leaders of this church. It's a call that we've all answered, and it's not always an easy one.
Any educational institution, a seminary included, is enrollment driven. We need pastors and we need scholarship money in particular, so to take away that huge obstacle for so many people going to seminary, so that if they don't have that to worry about quite as much. And so that scholarship money, you think of the difference that makes over the course of a lifetime of a pastor.
Whatever congregations can do to invite and encourage young people or old people like me within their community to take the risk and step into seminary, to know that God is calling and preparing them for the work that God has for them to do in the whole church. It is from within congregations that seminarians are raised up. And it is within congregations that seminarians have the support and the encouragement to continue along this process.
The number of graduates from our Lutheran seminaries for ordination in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America is half of what it was approximately 12 years ago. We encourage congregations to specifically support students from their congregations. The seminary already has some endowment funds, but this is a special fund just for North Carolina students. It'll be an endowed scholarship fund to assist North Carolina students who choose Southern Seminary.